So, Luke.
That's me.
That is you. I got a question.
Okay.
It's kind of been circulating around the internet.
Sure.
It's like trending-ish, sort
Sure.
of. People have been asking other people, what is your final meal? Like death row, what's your last meal?
Like this is the last meal you'll ever eat.
Yes. Like you know you're about to die. What is your final meal on this earth?
It's hard because there are so many different like
well, we like food
categories. Like half of these have been about food.
Right.
It's hard because there are so many different categories of food. Like
I know you got to pick one.
Do I want nachos? Do I want
okay?
Italian?
No. Stop right there. First and foremost, if your final meal is nachos,
but like really good, like grilled chicken nachos.
Stop it.
Okay.
Stop it.
All right.
That should not be your final meal.
Okay, I'm gonna try again.
Was that really a consideration for you?
It's like not towards the top of the list.
You can't tell me that's top 10.
No.
Okay.
I said nachos because like, do I want a really good like Mexican dish? And nachos was the first one that came to mind.
Wow.
It's a possibility. I think if I had to pick one, steak and a baked potato. Like a good ribeye.
What's on the... Okay, so that was my follow-up question is what cut?
Ribeye.
Ribeye.
Either ribeye or T-bone. Probably ribeye.
Well, I mean, with T-bone, you get the ribeye.
Right.
So, yeah, I'd get T-bone.
I'm still trying to watch my figure.
Your figure's, like, dead in the next hour.
It's the principle.
Of what?
Do I want my last meal to be, like, me horking something down, or do I want it to be pleasant? I don't see it. I want to go to death in peace.
I don't see a difference between the two. Honestly.
Okay.
It's fine. I'm teetering between having a steak as well, because I do love, like, I think I've almost perfected the ribeye. Like either searing it or on a grill. I've gotten pretty good at it.
By the way, baked potato, I'm just going to keep it simple.
Oh yeah, what's on? Are you going like you're not going fully loaded?
Not fully loaded. I'm just going like butter, bacon bits, cheese.
That's pretty close to fully loaded. What's on fully loaded?
I've seen a lot of a bunch of stuff. I've seen a bunch of different versions of a fully loaded. Yeah, like scallions or something like that.
Sour cream.
Yeah, I don't jive with sour cream.
I actually recently found out. So, folks, this is how I found out that Luke does not like sour cream.
This was the most disgusting thing I've ever seen her do. This is the worst thing I've ever watched Paige do in my life.
So, me, my wife, and our daughter Paige, who is 2, and Luke go to lunch. And my wife gets quesadillas, and as on the side of the quesadillas are like, it's like pico and like salsa and sour cream.
Yep.
And so we're sitting at a booth, and me and my wife and Paige are on one side, and Luke is all by himself on the other. Sorry. And
thank you.
And Paige just starts using her fingers and just dipping right into the sour cream and eating the sour cream all by itself. And like Luke said, yeah, I don't like sour cream, and then Paige does that.
I could count the number of food, like edible things on my hands that I just refuse to eat, and sour cream is one of them.
Like, he had said he didn't like it, and then she did that, and he just goes, "Oh no!"
That was the worst thing I've ever seen her do, like in her 2 years of life.
And I will say, like, it was repulsive to watch her eat that, and she tried to feed it to me one time, and that was a non-negotiable no for me. But Luke's reactions were so much better.
I really thought about getting up and leaving. Like, that was nasty.
Oh, it was so funny. What were we talking about? Oh yeah, Funimals. So yeah, I'm teetering between like a steak and then lasagna. You've taken steak. I'll take lasagna. And it's honestly, and this is going to sound biased, but it's got to be my wife's lasagna. Dude, that stuff's so good. Oh, it's so good. And let me tell you something. Anytime somebody says, hey, we're having lasagna, I'm making lasagna, I have to specify, or at least I have to have them specify what's in lasagna, like the lasagna that they're about to make. The first time I ever had lasagna with Sid's family, it was her aunt's.
Okay.
Rebecca.
Yeah.
I'll say your name.
Hi, Rebecca.
If you're listening.
I don't subscribe to whatever he's about to say because I don't know.
Oh, you would. You, let me tell you.
Okay.
I was told that we were going to have lasagna.
Right.
And so
you're
to me,
it's going to be a great time.
I'm like, let's go. This is going to be wonderful. I'm about to have the best night of my life up to this point.
Yep.
I'm ready to roll.
Right.
This woman cooked eggplant lasagna
Okay, Rebecca, I take it back. That's nasty.
And like, so I don't trust Rebecca anymore when it
Love
comes to
ya.
food.
Nasty.
Anytime she's like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna have this," I'm like,
Is there eggplant in it?
No, I just, what's in it? That's all I ask.
Is there eggplant in it?
I'm fine with eggplant. I really don't have a problem with eggplant.
Is there tofu in it?
And I'm fine with, don't get me started on tofu. Tofu's just not real. I don't know. I don't even know what it is, but anyway.
I don't think people should.
I have no problem with eggplant lasagna. I have no problem with eggplant. But the problem is that when you tell me that we're having lasagna and it ends up being eggplant lasagna, we have a problem.
Yeah, that was not communicated.
That's not okay.
No.
That's not okay.
No.
Because I take
that's
that first,
like a bait and switch.
Right. I take that first bite and I think,
It's going to be lasagna.
Oh no, I now hate lasagna. What has happened? My life is over.
Was it just my mom's that I liked?
Right. Was it? Well, okay, first of all, my mom's is just Stouffer's, but that's beside the fact.
Well, was it just Stouffer's that I liked?
Right. I mean, and if that's the fact, that's the fact. But I look down and I'm like,
it's a little disappointing.
I see purple and that little green, like the slimy green
Either
interior.
something was not communicated or this meat's been bad for a long time. Either way,
what kind of pasta is this?
I think I'm spitting this out.
Yeah. I did not finish that meal.
Yeah, I bet.
I felt betrayed. I'd been lied to.
It hurt because it came from someone you cared about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thanks for that, Rebecca. I'll never forget.
That would not be my last meal. I can confidently say I'd skip on the eggplant lasagna.
Dude, that was probably like 12, 13 years ago.
If it was when you first started going out with Sid, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, 12, 13, 14 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
It's been 14 years.
Because you've been married for
7.
I was going to say 7 or 8.
This summer, 7.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it hurt. It hurt.
Yep.
It hurt my my trust in people, and it also hurt my palate because
Jesus did say,
what a segue. All right, go ahead.
It's not what goes into a person that defiles them, but what comes out. But eggplant lasagna makes you wonder.
In and out, terrible.
Yeah. It's pretty bad.
We'll use that as a segue.
Welcome to the Valley Bible Studies Podcast.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Valley Bible Studies Podcast. I am one of your hosts, KT, and alongside me we have Luke.
Hey.
And looking forward to another episode. This was, I think our last episode was actually really good, and I think it's one of those that kind of...
As opposed to the other ones?
No, well, yeah.
We were half trying until the last one. You can start at the last one and not really miss much.
Everything else. The whole New Testament.
The first year and a half, man.
Yeah, the whole New Testament. Just read it for yourself. Don't listen to us. No.
Well, yes.
I mean, yeah. Like, read it. Duh.
Like, ideally.
But, anyway. So, I think our last episode, it was the kind that kind of got people thinking.
I would hope so. It got me thinking.
I've actually had a few people, say something about it, and I do just want to say, for those who do approach us and say, "Hey, your last episode was da da da," or one, it tells us that you're listening, and that's super encouraging. Like, thank you.
That keeps us going.
It does, because there was a solid few months where I was like, "Is anybody even listening to this?"
Do I just edit it and then I've listened to it and that's it?
Yeah, I mean maybe, but.
Okay.
But when you say the things that you do, especially when you tell us that it's making you think, or that you've agreed with something, or whatever, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And like as a friend to whoever is saying that, I really appreciate it. I know Luke does too.
Absolutely.
So appreciate. And going into the next few, we're going to be talking about the fruit of the Spirit.
This is a new series alert.
Yes.
There was going to be a worship series.
Yeah, new
series. The worship series was that episode. But now we're going to do a actual series of 3 episodes, and we're going to do the fruits of the Spirit. And we're going to do them
reverse.
Backwards.
Yes.
Kind of backwards, because we're going to do
Sorta.
like each trio in the right order, but we're going to split it by thirds. So there have been people before... And I really like this idea that sort of split the fruits of the Spirit into 3 categories, because the 9 fruits of the Spirit, and this comes from Galatians 5:22 and 23, where Paul says, the fruit of the Spirit is, and lists several of the most important Christian virtues. Before the list, I think it's worth noting that he says the fruit of the Spirit is, not the fruits of the Spirit are. And I think the singular there emphasizes something that we're probably going to say at the end of each of these episodes, which is all of these feed each other. It's not like you
it's
it's
the unity of Christianity.
Right. It's not like you have each of these things separately. You have all of these attributes about you, and they feed each other, and you progress in all of them together as you grow as a person and as a Christian. So, the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. Those are the 9. People have split that into 3 trios before, and we're going to do that. And the first trio is called the vertical virtues because they have to do with your relationship with God. The second trio is the horizontal virtues, your relationship with other people. And the third trio, I've seen a few different names, but the one we're going to use is the internal virtues, your relationship with yourself. And the third trio, again, is faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. So, to put it back, the fruit of the Spirit, the Holy Spirit. Okay, so how does my relationship with the Holy Spirit affect my relationship with myself? And the way that it affects my relationship with myself is by building faithfulness and gentleness and self-control in me as part of the transformation into the kind of person God wants me to be.
Well, and that's the whole point, is that it is a transformation. It's not something that happens overnight. And honestly, the only thing that happens instantaneously when it comes to Christianity is the act of becoming a Christian.
Right.
Like, that's the only thing that in, out, water, boom, good, Christian.
Yeah. And that's not when things end. That's when things start.
Exactly. And there's a whole process.
That's when the transformation starts.
Right. There's a whole process leading up to that. The transformation begins at baptism, and then you have from the end of your days, or excuse me, from that moment till the end of your days, transforming into the person that you ought to be.
Romans 12:2. Be transformed by the renewing of your mind.
And that takes time.
Right. It's not like you're going to wake up the morning after you've been baptized and you have faithfulness and gentleness and self-control down pat.
And that's one of those things that is often, the process of it is overlooked just because of how it happens. Right. Because a lot of times you'll pray for the majority of these things and then expect it over time for it to just happen. None of this just happens.
Right.
You are given the opportunity to strengthen it.
So in the context of Galatians 5, what Paul talks about right before the fruits of the Spirit, or fruit of the Spirit, is he says the works of the flesh are evident, which are blah, 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 and he lists a whole bunch of different...
Adultery, fornication, idolatry, yeah.
Right. All of the different sins that are pretty common that most people struggle with or are tempted with.
Right.
And then he says, but the fruit of the Spirit is those 9 things.
Correct.
So you have to be pursuing one or the other. We've talked about this concept before. Matthew 6, you're either serving God or mammon. Romans 6, you're either a slave to sin or you're a slave to righteousness.
Right.
And that's an active choice, even if we don't think about it as an active choice all of the time. So it's not that I pray for these 9 things and then magically over time they become a part of my life. It's I pray for them, but I also put the work in to work towards being transformed. Because I'm not transforming myself, but I am deepening my relationship with God and opening myself up to being transformed by Him.
Because the people that are saying, yes, I'm a Christian. Oh, yeah, I'm a Christian. Oh, I'm such a good Christian. Da, 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 da. But then they're not practicing those things. They're not putting it, like you said, putting in the work. Confidence without evidence is just like, it's delusion.
Yeah.
If you don't have the things to be able to back up to say what you are, it's not going to, it's just not factual. There's no evidence.
That's called being a Pharisee.
Yeah.
Matthew 23, Jesus says, when the Pharisees tell you to do something, do it, because they know the law really well. Don't do what they do, because they're not actually practicing it.
Correct. And that's actually, he says that following, explaining what the fruit of the Spirit is. You know, it's against those, or against such there is no law. Verse 24, and those who are Christ's have crucified the flesh with its passions and desires. It's like you said, you're choosing one or the other.
You've got to be actively choosing.
Yeah.
To not do the works of the flesh in order for the fruits of the Spirit, or the fruit of the Spirit.
Correct. And when you're actively choosing one, that means you're also actively killing the other.
Right.
And so if you're choosing the flesh, you're actively killing Christ. You're actively putting him on the cross. To where if you are actively choosing Christ, then you are putting to death those earthly things that are in opposition to
the less
it.
of self, more of the concept.
Yes.
Yep.
So which one do you want to do first?
You want to just do faithfulness, gentleness, self-control?
In order, sure.
Sure. I mean, if you want to do true backwards order, we start with self-control.
So when you say faithfulness, the first thing that pops into my mind is the song that we sing at Camp Horizons. We've even sung it at Westside. Faithful Love, right? Faithful Love flowing down. That's the first thing that comes into my mind. And the reason that it comes into my mind is because it's portraying exactly kind of the mindset of your faithfulness, right? It's consistently choosing the thing or at least trying to do the thing that you know is right, regardless of the things that are pulling you back, right? Like I definitely, having faith in something, even though I don't have necessarily all of the proof,
right?
But I know it's going to occur.
I didn't actually walk around with Jesus for the 3 years that he was
right. I wasn't
to
physically there, right?
But I have faith that he did, and that his ministry means something.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
So, if I can repeat a point that we heard at camp, if you haven't figured it out yet, we just got back from Virginia Christian Camp.
Pause. Camp was awesome this year.
Yeah, absolutely.
So many good people.
Always.
So many good kids.
Always.
So many good things to do. So many good relationships.
Camp is always a good time.
Some people to give a shout out to just briefly because they're that awesome. One, Tom Duff.
The
Duff. All hail Tom.
All hail Tom.
We don't actually do that at camp. Well, okay, we say it at camp, but we don't mean it fully.
It's anyway, to get under his skin.
It is. It's just to mess with Tom because his message is that this is not a one-man show. I'm not doing this on my own.
Which is true.
Which is 1,000% true. However, we pick on him because
he's the director and because it's easy.
Well, we also know that it's not true.
Right.
But we want to just bug him about that.
We're pretty good at that.
Yeah. Oh, we're really good at it.
Yeah.
Last year, I just flat out said, all hail Tom. And then it was a joke. It was funny. Yep. And then the entire staff said it.
Now we've got the kids saying it.
No. We didn't get the kids saying it. The kids just started. I never went up to a kid. None of us ever went up to a kid.
Well, yeah, we didn't entice them.
Go up to Tom and say, all hail Tom. None of us ever did that. The kids in it, it worked out.
By the end of the week, you had kids going down the water slide, and they would pass Tom on the side of it. And
it worked out.
Oh, yeah, Tom.
It worked out better than I ever could have imagined. But yeah, so shout out to Tom, Squeaky, Joe, Ronnie, people that make camp efficient.
All of the kitchen staff.
The kitchen staff.
Who have the hardest job there, period.
Because they're working 24/7 just about.
Right.
Big shout out to Kirk and Casey Gilpin and Patricia with them. They are
the Craft Hut.
The Craft Hut, yes. I told them this at camp. Hey guys, that the Craft Hut. Like I remember as a kid, it was like I didn't care.
The Craft Hut's hype,
but it was always decent. And then we kind of had a dip, and then it was okay, and then a dip. But ever since that they've taken over, man. It's
hype.
Kids
like
love
the
it.
Kids get excited to go to the Craft Hut,
and they've got coffee there.
Also true,
and they've got ice pops.
And, yeah, I was gonna say ice pops.
Man, they've got that place bumping. Love it to death. Love them to death. They have become a vital part of what makes VCC.
Correct.
And it wouldn't be it without them.
Right.
All the counselors, people that. So this fun fact. I don't know if I told you this. This was my 20th year of camp.
You did say that, yeah.
It would have been 22nd
without COVID.
But COVID, so whatever.
It was my third, so I'm catching up with you.
Yeah, you're getting there.
Anyway, to make my point, back to the Bible.
Yes, thank you, Luke.
That's sort of the point of the podcast.
I know, but VCC.
Well, yeah, VCC is the best ever.
Is VCC because of the Bible? So
right. The point I was going to make is one that Rick McCurdy made in his
Another
lesson.
Great person of VCC.
Another great person. Yep. He's been on the podcast before.
If
you want to hear more about Rick McCurdy, go listen to our episode on Ephesians from last year.
Great episode.
Rick's the best. And in his lesson, he was talking about faith and about faithfulness.
Yep.
So he read this passage from Hebrews chapter 3. And to set the context, what the writer of Hebrews is talking about in this passage is the Exodus and the people who came out of Egypt because of the Exodus that were led by Moses in the wilderness towards the Promised Land. You can read that story in the books of Exodus through Deuteronomy. So that's what he's talking about. Hebrews 3, starting in verse 16. For who were those who heard and yet rebelled? Was it not all those who left Egypt led by Moses? And with whom was he provoked for 40 years? Was it not with those who sinned, whose bodies fell in the wilderness? And to whom did he swear that they would not enter his rest, but to those who were disobedient? So we see, verse 19, that they were unable to enter because of unbelief. Rick's point is the last two verses there. It says in verse 18, the people who weren't able to enter the Promised Land were unable to enter the Promised Land because they were disobedient. Verse 19, the people who were unable to enter the Promised Land were not able to enter it because of their unbelief. Ergo, unbelief equals disobedience. Ergo, faith equals obedience. Yeah. Those two have to be related. Those two have to mean the same thing in some sense.
And the point that he made, and the thing that stuck with me was, there are many that believe, but only so few who believe. Mm-hmm. Because there are so many people that would say, I believe, but then their faith isn't strong enough for the obedience to really latch onto.
Right.
You know, when push comes to shove. And
the rocky ground.
Yes, that
when things get hard, they don't take root.
Correct. And there are some, and so the parallel that he used was, what was it? Was it Judas and Peter?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, to where
Judas believed.
He believed, but he didn't believe because when he just believed, you know, he knew what he did was wrong. However, because he didn't believe, he did not think that he would be able to be forgiven, that God would not be able to forgive him for what he did, and therefore he killed himself. To where with Peter, he denied him 3 times. And yet he knew that because his faith was strong enough and the God that loved him so much that he sent Jesus and Jesus died for him, the very same person that he denied thrice, he knew that he would be forgiven. He knew that he could live his life for him despite denying him 3 times.
He believed it.
He believed it.
Yep.
Amazing lesson at camp. Everybody, just about everybody had amazing lessons. John Crofts,
the man.
We did an episode with him way back when. Another great episode. Another great lesson at camp. So many guys that make camp amazing are the people that are consistently there, trying their best.
Right.
And those are the people that you always look to.
And that's really a great metaphor for faithfulness because, they try their best. Like, the people who make camp do so because they believe that camp is a net good. Like, that camp has a special place in the hearts of the campers that go and is also worth coming back to as an adult for the sake of the campers that go.
And camp isn't perfect. No place on earth is.
Nope.
But as someone who, again, has been going for 20 years, I've seen the ups and downs. I've seen people that whom I believed were my best friends who are no longer faithful to the church. Mm-hmm. People that I grew up going to that camp with. And yet I keep going back because of the people that are still there.
Yeah.
I keep going back because I know that the people that have been going for numerous years are faithful to God.
And faithfulness to VCC is sort of a microcosm of faithfulness to God in the sense that you continue to act on your faith, you continue to behave in a faithful way because you believe that
Shout out, Rick.
What you're being faithful to is good.
Because
if God isn't God, our faithfulness doesn't really matter.
I can legitimately say that VCC has shaped, or at least played a part in who I am today.
Right.
The people, and the crazy part is that I'm counseling now with people that taught me when I was a kid at VCC.
Mm-hmm.
Jerry was there.
Yep.
Oh, Jerry.
Who is also, you can't deny, Jerry is one of the things that makes camp what it is.
Yeah. Despite everything, I will 1,000% agree with that statement.
Yeah.
He was doing exactly what he does now back when I was a kid.
Yep.
He actually taught a class when I was a kid. That's an interesting story.
Yep.
John Croft was there. Dennis Curd has been there. There were a couple of years where Justin, who's our assistant director.
Well, Tom's been going for a lot of those years. He just became the director, 3 years ago?
Yeah,
something like that.
But Justin, there was a point where Justin and I were campers together.
Yeah, he's the assistant director now.
Right. And then there's people like Grayson that I grew up going to camp with,
and you were both counselors this year,
and now we're both counselors.
Yeah.
It's just to see the faithfulness of people throughout the years, and there are some people that were not and are again, and that warms my heart. It's knowing that faithfulness, even when mine isn't strong, I can look at other people who are faithful and lean on them, because I know, like, I have an image of what faithfulness looks like because of people like that.
And again, that's a microcosm of God in the church.
Yes.
We've been talking for the last 3 episodes, personal evangelism, but then congregational evangelism and worship with the thing that the church does together. We were never meant to do this alone. Yes, we each have our own individual relationship with Jesus, but all of those are guided by the Bible, and all of those are dependent upon the ability to come to each other and say, either I'm struggling with this, I need help from my Christian brethren, or I'm doing really well with this, how can I help my Christian brethren?
And all right, decent segue here. If I were to come to you and say, Luke, I am having a problem with X, Y, and Z, and you look at me and say, well, that's tough, deal with it.
You're dumb. How dare you struggle with that? It's a metaphor. It's your example.
You weren't joking.
It's your example.
Okay.
Ha, ha. That was funny.
Couldn't tell. So
good bit.
Yeah. That isn't very gentle.
No,
it's not. Hearing that, one, makes me not like you.
Fair enough.
2, would turn me off to anything else that you have to say after that.
And 3,
because let me hold on before we get to 3. If you were to say, "No, you idiot, stop struggling, you're the worst," and I go, "Okay," and then you say, "The Bible says da da da," I'm not going to listen to anything you have to say about what the Bible says.
Right.
I'm not because I'm tuning you out. I'd be surprised if I haven't walked away at this point.
Right. And so number 3, over time, if you get that from a bunch of different sources a bunch of the time, you get turned off to faith and the church altogether.
You become callous.
And then your ability to be a faithful person, it gets a lot harder.
It almost diminishes.
Right.
You become callous to anything and everything that the church says. Because, here's my point. If that person represents what the church is,
why would I want to go?
I want nothing to do with it.
Right.
I'm going to either find somewhere that does love me and that is going to help me, or I'm just going to go home and I'm going to sleep on Sundays.
And I think that in that sense, there's a balance between, well, we've talked about this before, there's a balance between in spirit and in truth. You don't want to do things in truth without having the right attitude about it. You also don't want to have the right attitude but know nothing about what the Bible actually says about things. I think there's a parallel between that balance and the balance between faithfulness and gentleness. Because if I'm being a faithful person, not only am I having a relationship with God, but I'm also having a relationship with the rest of my Christian brethren. And if I'm not gentle about how I do that, if I'm just callous towards what everybody else is going through, or if I diminish the needs of the brethren so that I get what I need or what I want out of the situation, not only am I hurting myself and my ability to be genuinely faithful, but I'm also hurting other people's ability to do the same thing.
Let me pose to you a question that I just now thought of, so this is totally left field for you.
Cool.
Do you think that combination of being faithful and gentle gets harder as you age?
I think it switches. I think it's easier to be
as you get
gentle
older
when you're a young person.
Yes.
I think it's easier to be faithful when you're an old person.
Yes, okay. We agree on that.
Let's preface by saying we're both 20-somethings, so we don't know what it's like to be old, really. But
however, we do, or at least we have seen, or at least have had interactions with people that are older.
Yes.
Enough evidence to base that opinion.
And let's also approach it from the positive spin. So, is it harder to be gentle when you're older. It can be. Why? Because you have a lot more wisdom when you're older. Because you have a lot more experience when you're older. Because you can see the ways in which a younger person might be going to the left or to the right of the law, and you want to help them. And that's the thing. 98% of the time.
You had to put a 98 on
98% of the time.
99.
When somebody in the church is coming to somebody else in the church with something that they see as a potential problem, they have the purest intentions in the sense that they want that person to go to heaven too.
Well, again, I mean...
And I can, like, as a minister, I see it all the time. I do this some of the time, where I want somebody to be in a right relationship with God so bad that I go hard in the paint. And I say, this is what's right, this is what's wrong. And sometimes I'm not always gentle about that.
Okay, so first of all, I'm still kind of shook that you just used the term "go hard in the paint."
Well,
and that's fine. That caught me off guard. It just caught me off guard. It's fine. Second, I do agree with you because you definitely want to, like, you just kind of want to hit them and be like,
yeah,
why don't you understand
this? Is what the Bible says.
I tell my students sometimes, like, I can't understand it for you. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, you're not going to approach someone with an issue of faith to someone who has not been gentle to you prior.
Okay, so let's flip it and look at the young people. Is it easier to be gentle? Yes. Why? Because you're looking at things from the other angle.
You're also looking at a lot of stuff from an emotional standpoint because you don't have a lot of factual or spiritual basis.
Right. I'm 24. I don't have it all figured out yet. Not to say that somebody who's older does, but like I have a lot more questions about like how my faith and the world around me are supposed to interact that somebody that's farther down the line has figured out. And I don't because I haven't had those experiences. Could you not point at me
when you say further down the line?
I didn't. I just... Leave me alone. On the flip side, it's easier to be gentle at that age because you're more emotionally aware. And you're more aware of how things sound. The importance of how things sound.
Let me tell you something, man.
And these are generalizations.
Yeah.
There are people on both ends of that spectrum that the opposite is true of. But in general, I think younger people do pretty well with gentleness and sometimes lack on the faithfulness side. And for people on the older side, it's the other way around. Vice versa,
yeah. I will tell you this. I'm only 6 years older than you, but let me tell you, in those 6 years, I have noticed significantly my decrease in emotional, how do I say this?
Impulsivity.
Yeah, I was going to say emotional awareness.
The word of the day is impulsivity.
Yeah, there you go. Look it up, people. Mm-hmm. I would say probably, just because I am becoming a little more maybe logical in the way that I think, opposed to emotional. I'm not looking at it as like, oh, how's that going to make me feel? How's that going to make them feel? Should I? Oh, yeah, 1,000%. But I'm doing that a little bit less.
You also have a 2-year-old.
I do.
You prayed for patience and God gave you patience. And also, like, patience, but also because you have a 2-year-old, you're clued into, like, I need to say this in the way that she will hear it.
Well, it's also the emotional perspective of it because I could ask, she'll be like, I'm hungry. Like, so, okay. So do you want to eat? And then no! Like, it's... okay, kid.
Why not, dummy?
Right. Yeah. Why not? And so that you want to talk about patience being tested.
Uh-huh.
Out of nowhere, like I'm certain she's Al-Qaeda. Because out of nowhere, that's she's funny. Just losing her mind, and you're like, "What did I do wrong?" And she's just screaming everything. Not really. She's 2. She doesn't know that
usually
word.
It's not something you did wrong. She's just mad at the world for no reason.
Yeah, You've seen it.
I have.
It's tough.
She doesn't get her sippy cup when she wants it, and suddenly you're the devil.
Well, no, she'll ask for the sippy cup, and then you get the sippy cup, and then she has a sippy cup, and she's mad because you got her the sippy cup.
Yeah.
It doesn't. Nothing makes sense.
Kids, man.
And because nothing makes sense, that gentleness goes away.
Right.
I wouldn't say that it goes away. I'm still
doesn't
very,
go
I don't,
away.
I don't,
It's a lot harder.
Yeah, I'm still very gentle with my daughter. I don't beat my kid. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that when that pressure comes up and when that kind of scenario, and it's not just with a 2-year-old, it's in any kind of scenario.
Yeah.
It's with people because people are sometimes.
Right.
And when,
hence the balance being necessary.
Right. And
you
when
have to
that
know
happens,
what you're doing. You also have to know how to say it. Faithfulness and gentleness.
It's not what you said, it's how you said it.
Right.
That's so true. Because imagine, actually, this happened at camp. There was something that Justin, he wanted to see if he could help me with something, and I said, "No, you've done enough." And he was like, "What?" and he's thinking you mean like, all right, step off. Yeah, so he and I literally had that conversation about it's not what you said, it's how you said it, because I can tell him you've done enough versus, "No, you've done enough.
You've worked enough for today." Yeah.
Right. Like you haven't, like what I was trying to tell Justin
I don't
was
want
like,
to put
you're
one
the
more
assistant
thing on your plate.
I was like, you're the assistant director. You've got plenty to deal with. I got this. It's okay. Right. And what he was hearing was, I don't want you anywhere near this.
How dare you try and
you
help me.
Incompetent little turd. Which definitely was not what I was saying.
Right.
But if you're helping somebody out in their Christian walk and you say something the wrong way, that's the last time you're going to be talking.
And that's okay. So let's talk about Matthew 18 for a second,
Bring it on.
because it's so easy to have the best intentions, to want to help somebody, and like the example you just used. You said what you said, and you can technically take what you said either way, depending on tone, depending on circumstance, whatever. And you said it with the best of intentions, and it was just heard differently than it was said.
Yeah.
That's so much of where conflict comes from. Again, I can tell you as a minister, so many fewer problems would be like present in the church today if people would just talk to each other. And like let's say you have that conversation with Justin. You two were able to work that out, the misunderstanding that was not really anybody's fault.
Well,
you just had different understandings of the situation.
We actually laughed at it from the get-go.
Right.
He never actually thought that, but it was the fact that, like, if it was anybody that I didn't have a decent relationship with, they could have.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. Like, that can be, there's no malice behind it. Nobody's trying to hurt anybody else. It's just a misunderstanding.
All right, let me tell you something, man. People are so scared to clear the air.
Yes.
People are so terrified to just figure out what the problem is and either move past it or let it go.
Meanwhile,
actually, those are the same thing. What I'm really trying to say is, like, either you two agree that, hey, fine, it is what it is. You said it, I didn't like it. That's life.
Or you talk about it and you say this is actually not.
Or you actually resolve it.
Right.
Right. Those are the two outcomes.
Meanwhile, what Jesus says is, when you have a problem with somebody,
bring it up.
Bring it up to them.
One-on-one.
One-on-one. Not go put them on blast on social media.
Don't gossip.
Gossip behind their back.
Don't go straight to the elders.
If you regardless of whether you think that they have bad intentions about that thing or not, which they probably don't, but regardless of whether you think that, that's a them conversation.
Yeah. And that's
an A-B conversation.
Yes. And if, so like, hey man, I heard that so-and-so said this. Or.
Why?
Or you're out and you see someone doing something questionable, even. Don't just sit on it. Don't just go to somebody else and be like, I saw Luke doing something.
Right.
Instead, just grow up. And okay, that sounds very blunt. But I'm just being real. Grow up and just go talk to them. Because here's the thing. If you say, hey man, Luke, I saw you the other day doing this. Could you like just tell me about it?
That's a very different conversation. And here's the other thing.
Versus, hey, I saw you doing this. Explain yourself. Right.
It's not supposed to be like an us versus you or a me versus you conversation.
It's a you and me versus the problem. Yes.
Yep.
And Sid and I, that was one of our first marriage counseling things before we got married is the realization that it's us versus it, not
me versus you.
Yeah.
Here's the other thing about it. You want to kill a church's evangelism potential? Give me a church that has a gossip problem.
Yeah.
Because what we said earlier about, like, if that's the person that represents Christianity, I don't want it. If the person that represents Christianity to me, quote unquote, is just going to put me on blast behind my back,
or
why would I go?
Well, and if you know somebody that's always talking about somebody else, and you're like, oh, it's really fun to talk to this person, we have a great time. If they're talking about someone else like that to you, what makes you think that they're not talking about you like that to somebody else?
Yep.
And to have that constant fear is terrifying. Like, the fact that somebody could be talking about me at all times, and there's nothing I can do about it. Oh, there's something you can do about it. Grow up and, go talk to them about it, saying like, hey, and because at that point they have one of two options. They can either fess up and say, I have been and I'm very sorry, or they can lie about it, which that's a whole nother problem within itself.
Or option number 3, it was a misunderstanding. Yeah. Which is a realistic option.
Like, no, actually, yes. And
I was there doing this, but it was for this reason. I was trying to help, or I was trying to do whatever.
Because if you do not approach that person, what ends up happening is people make assumptions. And when those assumptions are made and no air has been cleared at all between the two of you and other people find out, then it's this big old hoopla because no one actually wanted to grow up and address the issue.
The balance between faithfulness and gentleness.
Right. I'm not being very gentle right now, and I apologize for that. But you got me fired up.
Next transition. What helps me keep the balance between faithfulness and gentleness?
Having self-control over the things that you say and how you say them.
Right.
There are a lot of things. you know this because a lot of them I do say to you. There are a lot of things that I'd like to say to a lot of either groups or individual people or just certain topics that I would really like to address. However, I do not, because I have been told that I am very blunt.
The kids call those intrusive thoughts.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to let the intrusive thoughts win.
I have 2 different types of intrusive thoughts. The ones that I probably could say and it might not end well, and the ones that I really can't say. Those are like the intrusive thoughts. Most people have, I think, some of them. I agree. Yeah. And that's what makes them intrusive, because you just don't say them.
Right.
That having that self-control, one, because I don't want to like fluff any feathers. I don't want to cause.
I don't want to needlessly make somebody's day worse.
No, and I don't want to create issues when there really doesn't need to be one.
Right.
Because
that's another thing as a minister, that this is one of those intrusive thoughts that I would like to say to a lot of people a lot of the time. It's not that serious. Like, I promise 90% of the time, at least, people have better intentions than they're given credit for. And also 90% of the time, at least, this was not a big deal, whatever the issue is. And it was made a big deal because people just kept talking about it without resolving it.
Yeah. I have this, I might have said
lack
it on...
of self-control.
Ouch.
I'm just saying, like, no, not to you.
Oh.
Not just now.
I said, I have this, and you said lack of self-control. Okay.
It's not Jeopardy. No, I'm saying, like, that problem spirals because of a lack of self-control. Okay. We want to keep just talking about it and not resolving it. We don't have self-control in how we treat the problem. It becomes a snowball.
I got you. You were just interrupting me. That's fine.
You know what?
I have this, let me finish the thought, saying, or at least plan, right? And I might have said it on the podcast before, it's called the 5-year rule.
You have said this on the podcast before.
Yeah. For just a quick refresher, because not everybody listens to me as intently as Luke does. Thanks. If it's not going to bother you in 5 years, resolve it as quickly as possible.
It's not that serious.
Resolve it as quickly as possible and move on.
Yeah.
Because it is not that serious. If it is going to affect me in 5 years, well, then let's actually find a solution that's going to be,
amicable to both parties.
And will be...
And more importantly than
withstanding
faithful to the word of
those
God.
5 years. Like, at the end of those 5 years, was that the right call?
Right.
We need to put enough thought and effort into our decision to where at the end of the 5 years, it was the right decision.
To use another Rick McCurdy line, God gave us a Bible and a brain and expects us to use both. I think that applies when you're talking about this kind of stuff. Like, obviously, the way in which you solve problems on the balance of faithfulness and gentleness with the use of your self-control has to be biblically based, but also has to be, like, thought through. Like, don't just wing it.
Okay, so the thought-through process in Rick's example was, don't just wing it. I really think that it's applicable in these three as well, because, like, you can have things that are biblically factual. Like, we have the biblical evidence to prove X, Y, and Z. But then if I don't have enough self-control to be gentle about the message that I am portraying, people are not going to hear it. They're not going to understand it. They're not going to want to listen to it because of the way that I am giving the message to them.
Right. The thinking through process involves, is this faithful to the Word of God, and will it help or hurt my faithfulness to the Word of God? And also, how does this sound? How does this look? Will it be a stumbling block to somebody else?
Right.
The way that I do it.
Because I have, and you probably have too, and as I'm sure many of our listeners as well, have probably heard a preacher talk about things that are relatively serious, but could say it in a very uplifting way.
Mm-hmm.
There are also people that could really have something that's just a regular message, but it sounds very hellfire and brimstones, or at least that's how it ends up, because you could talk about Jesus's love, right? Arguably the most uplifting kind of message that there is.
Yep.
And then end with it with, if you do not accept Jesus's love, you will burn in it. Like, that's not like, hey man, like,
you sort of undermine the point.
Right. Like, do you have the biblical evidence to be able to say that? Sure. But
is that going to get people to respond to it?
Exactly.
Right.
And as a Christian, what are we saying to other people, specifically people that aren't Christians, to have that same effect that we have, and we'll just kind of tie it in, we have enough self-control to be gentle about our faith.
Very nice.
Thanks, man.
Put a bow on those three very nicely.
Thank you.
I would also say, over the course of this episode, we've talked a lot about talking, and we've talked a lot about, like, how your words reflect faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. It's also an action thing, and obviously that's implied, but, like, does this practice, does this habit help me to be more or less faithful? Does it reflect gentleness toward, like, will it be a stumbling block to my Christian family? And do I exercise self-control in how I do it? That's also a behaviors thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's a good way to wrap that up.
That's 3.
All right.
6
3
to
more.
Go.
Yeah, so 3 more in the next one, 3 more in the following, and then that will wrap up the series.
If you read Galatians 5:22 and 23 really closely, you can probably figure out what the next episodes are about.
Spoilers. You also said it at the very beginning.
I also already listed the 9.
Well, we want to thank you so much for being on this episode with us. We only get to do this because of you. Like, like I said earlier, if people didn't actually say anything, we might have stopped by now. I don't know.
And I'll also put this, because we just talked about it, I'll put this disclaimer on there. We usually say, like, if you have any questions, please ask us. Like, if you have any Bible questions, if you have any questions about, like, through this, I've been able to, like, help other people learn how to do a podcast. So, like, if you have literally any question or any comment about
Steve.
The episode, but also, like, if you see us not reflecting what we say, tell us.
In a gentle way.
Like in a gentle way with self-control, yes. But, like, if we're going to talk about this, I feel like it's important to say, like...
Yeah, we don't want to be hypocritical.
Right, and we want to be faithful to what we're saying in the same way.
Yeah.
We're not held to a different standard just because we're the people behind the mic.
No, just because we have a microphone doesn't elevate us in any way.
Right.
Because honestly, anybody can do what we're doing.
Yeah, it's not that hard.
We're not
like
special.
I said, I've helped like 3 people.
Yeah, we're not special
already. Yeah.
So, But regardless, thank you so much for being on here with us. We do enjoy doing this because, well, we are friends. We're friends, aren't
It's
we?
fun. Yeah.
And
Have a good
then-
time. Also, like, Bible study's never bad.
No,
always,
not at all.
always fun.
Yeah. All right, well, we'll see you soon, and take care.
Usually I say see you in whatever, but we're still going to be in Galatians 5, so just hold your finger there.
Yeah, and stay cool, because,
Yes.
wow.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Stay cool. All right, bye, guys.